Give your shout out.
Right now, I'm the retired adjutant general from the state of Connecticut. I retired in 1999. Dave Gay spent 39 years in the Guard and another 4 in the Marine Corps.
You want to give your shout out to your friends?
Yes, good friends of mine, neighbors recommended I come here today for this presentation, and I'd like to recognize them. Unfortunately, Richard Weiner died on Saturday and is being buried at this very moment at the Veterans Cemetery in Windsor, and I wish them well.
That's wonderful. Okay, all right, and so like I said, you don't have to worry about the cameras. Just look at me.
Understand, yeah.
You're just having, a conversation with me.
I've done a couple.
You're probably more being National Guard. You probably had to speak with the media quite a bit. All right, so I just want to have you, take me back to that day, October 3rd, 1979. Tell me what that day was like for you.
At that time, I was working on in Camp Hartel as the maintenance supervisor running the combined field maintenance shop by title. And I had 45 people working for me there that are among the best in the state in trains and the business of mechanics. Which turned out to be very fortunate throughout the week. It was about 3 o'clock. I was in my office and my com key on my telephone on the desk started arcing and sparking. What the heck is that about? So I went out into the shop, and we had an overhead door that was about 25 feet tall. And I could look out, and I said, what in the heck is that? And it was just ominous. Kind of luminous, and wind started picking up very, very rapidly. And my people were trying to close the door, and I stopped them, knowing or thinking anyway that would be better. And what occurred is the wind came into the shop and blew everything out, all the glass and everything. Had that door been closed, the results would have been different. But anyway, the tornado went right over us. Caused a lot of damage to the facilities at Camp Hartel, knocked down 50, 60 trees, and it went over fairly rapidly, and then it followed by a calm and then a rain, and very, very heavy for about maybe 4 to 5 minutes, and then it stopped again. And it was fairly much back to normal, except it wasn't normal. And I had one of my fellows grab a Jeep, one of the soldiers, and I wanted to go out and look at the neighborhood. And I asked those people to go around Hartel and tell me what the damage was. So basically, I couldn't get off the post because of the trees were down and blocking all roads, all exits. So I had one of the soldiers went through the fence with a bulldozer, and we went out that way in a Jeep. And the first thing I did was catch the Air National Guard facility that was the headquarters at that time, right on 75. Tremendous amount of damage, mostly glass and that sort of thing, but no injuries. Then I went up to the right on 75 to our aviation facility, and I saw that most of our helicopter fleet was totally destroyed. Helicopters were blown 300 to 400 yards into the woods. There were Hueys, and we had Sky Crane CH-54s. One of them actually had caught the wind, and the tire blew, and the wind kept on pinwheeling it, and the strut went about 8 inches into the tarmac, and it was there. But anyway, they were all destroyed. And I went to the Air Museum, and of course that was terrible. They lost a tremendous amount. I went to several locations, and what I saw very rapidly, a lot of damage but no injuries, which was thankful. And I could look down 75 and see that every telephone pole, every transformer, everything was down all into 75, some amount of damage, but I had 45 people at the post at Hartel, so I shot back there, and I grabbed one of the soldiers and said, look, go over to Suffield and buy 50 grinders and bring them back. So by this time it was around 4:15, 4 o'clock. My people were chomping at the bit to go home, and we had absolutely no communications with anyone, and of any type, military or civilian. And we could hear literally hundreds of sirens and emergency vehicles all throughout the area.
Did you know, not to interrupt you, but did you know at that time that it was a tornado, or did you just think it was a bad storm? What was your thinking at that
Had
point?
no
Waiting
idea.
for orders kind of thing?
Well, I wasn't waiting for any orders because I don't do that, but didn't know it was a tornado. Knew it was bad, knew it was terrible, didn't know what it was. And my people wanted to go home, and by that time I had all my people, plus I had soldiers from 2 other units that are at Hartel. So I had just under 50 people there. And I told them, I said, like, very frankly, you know and I know we're going to work tonight. I said, I can't tell you what we're going to do, but we're working. So, you know, typical soldier, you give them a grinder and a hot cup of coffee and you're in business. So they willingly stayed. And I had no real authority to do that at that point, but I knew it was bad.
So how long did it take until somebody officially notified you and said, we need you guys?
Well, that really, maybe about 7 o'clock at night, the Assistant Adjutant General finally made it out there in his vehicle, and he was working with the police chief of Windsor Locks. I don't know his name, but his nickname was Lucky. And we were getting, Lucky had asked for some missions. So from about 7 o'clock on, we were doing missions for the public safety arena, if you will. And one of them was guarding a building that had lost its roof and some of it, all the windows and such. But it was loaded with weapons. It had shotguns, it had rifles, it had all kinds of things in there. So we guarded that, and we ended up running security for all the airport along 75 to keep anything secure that was inside of 75 on the aviation side, the Air Museum side, all the way down to the entry to the airport itself. So we worked all night, and my people did a very, very good job. Guardsmen are always right at it with emergencies. And we worked till, you know, we finally pulled them off about 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. And it was a long, long night, but everything worked out pretty well. But at that time, we really, you know, they were just getting their handle on it. And there was no formal situation between the governor and the National Guard formally putting us on state active duty, if you will, for the emergency. But I had the 45 people, 50 people up there, so we did missions all week long. The governor and the Adjutant General, General Freund, and Governor Allegrasso came out on Tuesday, and I had established a little bit of a headquarters with communications there. And they came to that location, and it was from there that we were receiving various missions for cleanup, for support, for debris removal, taking trees off of the top of houses, all sorts of safety, public safety missions. A lot of dump runs, hundreds and hundreds of them, as we started clearing up debris with the people, full-time employees of Windsor Locks.
One of the things that I think was the fire chief was in here the other day, and he was talking about the National Guard. One of the things that really was a comfort to families was that the National Guard was in the neighborhoods in Pequannock, and stopping people from coming into the neighborhoods that didn't live there, like people who wanted to look around. Did you find that was an issue? Do you remember that?
No, it wasn't an issue. It was just something we normally did. And we had, on River Road, I didn't know about all the loss of homes at that point on Tuesday night and Wednesday. Found out later on Wednesday. And there were 3 homes in a row on River Road that were taken right down to the foundation. The 4th house happened to be a chief warrant officer who lived there in the National Guard. And his home had been damaged, but was upright. So that I had him pretty much control that area with some amount of people. And I want to give a shout out to the Salvation Army, who came and set up their operation right at the Pequannock, where a couple of those little stores are, the liquor store and so forth. And they set up their kitchen there, and they fed everybody for the better part of a week. I think they were there through Sunday, fed everybody that came there, all the people that lost homes and such. They fed hot meals to throughout. They gave the guardsmen and public safety workers coffee and sandwiches as needed. But they did a wonderful job. The Salvation Army was Johnny on the spot and helped in that whole area down there.
Did your people have to search for? They didn't know if there was anybody who had died, or was that part of what your mission?
No, we did not. That was left to the fire and the police, and we were really in the support cleanup mission mode. You understand that the people that work for me were the best tradespeople in the total National Guard, and they could work on everything from and operate anything from 5-ton and 10-ton trucks, bulldozers, bucket loaders, steam shovels. I mean, they were a talented group of people. So we were really in the area of ensuring that everybody was safe. There was trees on homes, as I indicated, that we had to go up there and pull them off the home so it would prevent further damage. And we were just in the support mode to the town of Windsor Locks. And we were getting missions, obviously, from the governor, who by that time was walking around the area and seeing her neighbors.
Yeah, so tell me about that. Tell me about Ella Grasso and what she did and your impression of her.
Well, fortunately, I had met and known the governor slightly prior to that. Of course, she used to visit the National Guard at Fort Camp Drum, New York, on Governor's Day each year. And I first met her there, and then later I met her in Storm Ken and Storm Larry, which helped her out significantly and had her really understand the use of the National Guard properly. So she was fully aware of our capability and fully aware of the importance of having the Guard and using their assets. What impressed me about Ella when she came out, I was in the CP command post with them, many hours, and my boss, General Freund, was working with the National Guard Bureau in Washington, trying to replace our air fleet right off the bat. Ella Grasso was working with all assets in Washington, FEMA and the normal support system, but also with HUD. And one of the things she did with HUD was get a hold of, by browbeating them to death, got a hold of 65 trailers and had them brought from Pennsylvania to Connecticut. And those people that lost all their homes, that had a trailer available until they were really on their feet. Those trailers from HUD stayed up here for several months. They may have been up here as much as 6 or 8 months after the event. And Ella was firm on that. And of course, she liked to walk the city, talk to her people, and we got some missions directly from her in walking. And I was with her from basically Tuesday through Friday. She was on there on and off, and then on the weekend, we brought the governor on a full tour of all the areas and showed her what was done. Of course, we were with the Windsor Locks officials also, but she's very interested in our missions and our support.
Did you see her reaction to the devastation she saw? Did she react, or was everybody just in such work mode that there wasn't that emotional?
Ella was a very strong lady. There's a lot of people that have lumps because she was strong, but so she wasn't overwrought at all. She was in the work solution mode and the comforting mode to the people in Windsor Locks. And she's very, very good at that.
One of the things that I heard about her, and you may not be able to speak to this or not, but when they originally got those trailers, I heard that they wanted to put them all in one location. And Ella Grasso said, no, they're going to go on the people's property. Can you speak to that at all?
No, I don't. I'm just aware that it occurred. And very frankly, I know the mayor and all the city officials did a great job, including the fire and the police and the public safety. But Ella's the boss, and up here on Windsor Locks, when she hit the gavel, that's what occurred.
You personally, now, do you live in Windsor?
I do now.
Okay.
I've been in 50 years or better in Manchester, but I've been up here since 2004.
So you personally, you're working, you have people, that are working with you. Did you go home at night and just be, did it get to you, seeing the loss of people's homes down, people that you knew even?
To an extent. We were, for example, the first 24 hours, nobody went to sleep. We were up 24 hours and worked the following day. We were working the National Guard and doing their various support activities. We were working probably 20 hours a day. I was quite worried about the people being overcome by lack of sleep. I had people that I actually had to go out and pull off of bulldozers because they had been on them 16 and 18 hours. Moving debris around, cleaning up, picking up with bucket loaders, putting it in 10-ton trucks, running the 10-ton trucks to the dumps. And all those people that Tuesday through Friday, 16, 18, 20 hours a day, little sleep. We slept at Camp Bartel, ad hoc eating, that sort of thing. On the weekend, I was given an aviation company, an engineer company, and a medical company that were on their weekend drill assignment for that weekend. And they were all brought up to Windsor Locks to aid in the clean up and the support. Basically, at the Sunday night then, the town had pretty much come to grips with what was going on. All the safety aspects had been taken care of, so we kind of went back to normal.
That was my question, actually, about you all were doing a lot of the cleanup, mostly in Windsor Locks, but in Windsor, the Windsor community. But did you see other people helping, like people who lived in their houses? Were they helping you guys?
People in the neighborhood are helping. For example, on River Road, there was, I probably had 100 guardsmen down there, but there was probably 20, 30 civilians out there helping and picking up. And it was always a joint thing. It's not that we walked in and did everything. We walked onto a homeowner's property, obviously the homeowner was there. And they helped direct and give our people guidance and tell them what they needed to have done and that sort of thing. And other than that, the missions came right out of public safety.
Is there anything, when you look back, is there anything that you would have done differently or wish that you had done differently?
Not a bit. And the reason I say that is we could all went home at 4:30. And nobody did. I did send one guy to his home who lived on Spring Street. And the purpose of that was, in addition to having some peace with his family, was to try and establish communications with the Hartford Army. Because I had no communications with anyone until about 7 o'clock at night. So everything that happened at 3 to 7, I pretty much did on my own.
Do you think there were lasting effects on maybe the way people respond, whether it's the National Guard or the governor, or do you think the tornado experience changed how anything was done as far as first response?
Well, I don't like to, blow our horn too much, but we had a lot of experience in that. Like I was indicating in a conversation earlier with you, that we were involved in the Storm Felix, the ice storm in '74, to a very, very large extent. And then Governor Grasso was in when Storm Ken and Storm Larry. And she used the National Guard extensively, and it helped her out an awful lot. But the emergency management people worked out of the Hartford Armory. I was totally aware of all of them and had worked with them as an instructor for FEMA on a part-time status. And so we knew each other well. We know all our capabilities. Our people are great people. So you do Felix, you do Ken and Larry. I recall doing the floods with Governor Bill O'Neill, 82, 84 time frame. So every major event that the state is involved in, the Guard is involved in. And those were the larger events. But there are many, many, many small events. And we have heroes in the Guard. I recall when I was a little bit higher up in rank, one of my captains did probably what acted just like I did. When you're out there, you do what you have to do. And then you say, wow, I don't know if that was right or wrong, but I'll find out pretty quick. But I recall giving him the Medal of Valor, he and 4 enlisted soldiers. I recall the fire chief from Westport, Connecticut, with tears in his eyes saying that they saved lives. What he did on his own, and we're taught this way, a National Guardman, a captain in a community, a commander, has the right to deal with the community on an emergency basis. And then he follows up with the higher headquarters. That's exactly what this young captain, Ron Welsh, did, who's now a brigadier general. But they went down to the shore and removed people from homes that were being inundated by seawater in the winter in a horrendous storm that was a cross between a hurricane and an ice storm. And they were actually in the frigid waters of the ocean several hours. Icicles hanging off their eyebrows, off their uniforms. And they removed people with a bucket loader from houses to bring them out and put them in 5-ton trucks to get them out of the area. And eventually, they themselves were inundated with ocean water and had to be airlifted off the top of a vehicle by Coast Guard helicopters. So we're attuned to that sort of a business and very good at it.
Look at my questions there. I think we kind of hit on everything. Is there anything? Talked about that. Is there anything about that day or about your part in it that we didn't touch on here that you want people to know, or people that you worked with? Is there any?
I would say that the learning process is really not from the Office of Civil Emergency Management, the governor, or how they run the state, or the Guard and support, and so forth. The learning experience is always at the local level, always at the town level. They find out their emergency plans are improper. They're not complete. They don't make sense. They're written out by somebody in a rubber room that didn't know what they were talking about. For example, during that Westport situation, they had the National Guard for evacuation. And I said, do you really expect us to go down to a senior citizen home and then load 70, 80, 90-year-old people in a bucket loader and put them in the back of a 5-ton truck? I said, that's a lousy plan. So what occurs is through experience and through application and exercises and follow-up, the towns always update all their emergency plans to make them much more sensible. So then that puts them in a stronger position to react in the future. So the learning point is more at the local level than at our level, because we're fairly experienced at it.
I think you've answered all my questions.